Well, hello, friends. I am so excited on Avid Readers of Christian Fiction today. My friend Jennifer Deibel is here. We're talking about her book, Heart of the Glen. I got a picture right here of the cover, which is gorgeous. But first of all, welcome, Jennifer. And why don't you start by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Thank you so much for having me. I adore the Avid Readers of Christian Fiction Facebook group. I've been a member for, I don't know, a decade or more.
Yeah.
So it's a delight to be here and chat with you finally. We've known each other for so long. Um, but yeah, I'm Jennifer. Most people call me Jen. I currently live in Phoenix, Arizona. I'm a middle school English teacher and a mom of 3 kids. Been married for about 24 years and started writing seriously when we were living in Ireland. My husband and I had spent 2 years in Donegal um, as basically students of the language and culture and music and everything. And when we came back, I had the idea for what would become my debut novel. And then we went back about 4 years later after he did some grad school and lived in the Galway area for about 4 years. And that's during that time is when I met you and really started getting serious about my writing. And so now Heart of the Glen is book number 5, which is crazy. Like, I can't believe we're already like at 5. But so yeah, I write
Yeah.
historical romance with Irish charm woven through, and I try to bring in as much authenticity from the Irish culture in my time there as I can.
Yeah, I love it. And I love that people that really know the area. And I mean, even at the beginning, there's like this is how you pronounce all these words in here, these Irish words, because it's like you live there, you experience it. And I think that's very different. I mean,
Yeah.
I love research, but it's very different, I think, from people that just like search online or it just brings more of the story to life, which I think is awesome.
Yeah, yeah, and that's my hope.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about Heart of the Glen. Tell us a little bit what it's about. Especially, I just love your main character and her name. I'm like, how do I've already asked you, like, how do you pronounce this? Because it's not common to
Yeah,
me,
so
but it's so pretty. Yeah.
no. Yeah. So this story follows Saoirse Fagan. So if you're familiar with Hollywood stuff, it's like Saoirse Ronan, the actress. And she moves from her home in County Westmeath to be the head maid at Drumbo Castle in County Donegal. When she gets there, she finds out the Lord had died 2 weeks prior
Mm.
and the family just up and left. And so she's stuck literally in the middle of nowhere with no job, no home. Her family is gone. Um, and so she's like, well, I guess I'll just start walking. So she just starts walking towards the sun. And eventually, this kind lady picks her up, and she ends up being the sister of our hero, Owen McCready, who is a sheep farmer and tweed weaver. So the history and Donegal tweed, which is probably only more well known than, or slightly less well known than Harris Tweed of Scotland. They're kind of the two main tweed producers in the world.
Mm.
And they used cottage weavers to, so Owen has his own weaving shed and all of this. But when they arrive to the house, they realize that Owen has been injured in attack by sheep bandits who are trying to steal his flock, and he cannot weave. And his sister Eileen has brought back news that they've just received their biggest order yet from Murphy's of Donegal Tweed, and so they have to figure out what are they going to do. And Saoirse, who is a good maid and craftswoman, volunteers to learn the trade, but Owen's not sure that he wants to hand over his livelihood to this veritable stranger, no matter how enchanting he finds her. And so it's got some of my favorite tropes. He's probably the grumpiest hero yet. So grumpy sunshine, forced proximity. There's a loyal dog.
Fish out of
And I
water.
will, yep, fish out of water, small town romance, disaster. It's got it all.
I love that. I love it so much, and I love that. I mean, I think we're used to, okay, we're gonna be in this manor house, or we're gonna be doing all these things, but we're like, no, we're gonna make some tweed. We're gonna make some tweed in this book.
Yeah. Exactly, why not? And that was fascinating research too. Um, that was just the how painstaking it has to be is unreal. So that was fun to learn about and try and figure out how to put that into the story.
Yeah, I want to hear about that because again, I love books because why we love historical fiction is we feel like we're learning something. We're learning about a place, we're
Mhm.
learning about a culture, a time period, or things like that. Like I feel like I have been a reporter. I have been a navigator on a
Mm.
bomber. I have been all these things because you have to
Yes.
learn
Yes.
details. So you're a tweed maker now. I don't know if a weaver. I
Yes.
guess a weaver is better than a tweed
A
maker.
weaver, yeah.
Like you just give us just a little glimpse, but then I want to dig into this romance a little bit more. But tell us a little bit about
Okay,
Tweed
yeah.
because I've never asked that question
So
before in my life.
it's fascinating because especially in Donegal Tweed, the cottage weavers prided themselves on using the natural resources, and they try to get their colors of their tweed to sort of mirror or mimic the color of the landscape around them. And so Owen's tweed is he uses what they call a barleycorn pattern, which is very speckledy and it appears to not have a pattern to it, and there's lots of different colors in there. And I learned that to get a double wide loom, um, you end up stringing 3,000 single strands going this way. You have to tie
Oh,
them all, and they all have to pass through these hanging loops called heddles. So you have to pass each strand through the eye of the heddle and tie it all in. And then anytime you want to change the color of the actual weaving, then you have to tie that off and tie a new one on. And there's a special knot that I learned about. And I had the honor and privilege of actually chatting with Master Weaver Colum Sweeney. No relation to Colum Sweeney in my first book, but he seems
wow.
just as delightful. Um, but he was so gracious to spend about an hour with me just talking through like how would they dye the wool, what would they do with it, how would all the different ins and outs. And then there's an amazing um, documentary that you can find on YouTube if you search Hands and Donegal Tweed, and it's about these three brothers that are weavers for Donegal Tweed, and that's really where the original seed of a story idea came to me is when I came across that and watched it. And I thought, like, what would happen if it was a brother and sister on their own and they couldn't weave anymore? So yeah, it's absolutely fascinating, absolutely painstaking. Just the amount I'm just thinking about stringing 3,000 strings and tying, basically 12,000 knots just to set it up so you could start weaving. Like that's just the base. So yeah, it's really fascinating and really quite an art and craft.
I love that so much. And so, what time period does this take place?
This takes place in 1912.
Okay, 1912. All right, very cool. So
Yeah,
we actually
1912.
have
Yeah.
family. I actually had family that came from County Cork, Ireland. They immigrated.
Oh, yes.
To the US, and so I would love to go there someday, and I think you were living there when we first connected. Do we I'm trying to remember, was it at a conference or did
Correct.
we connect online? No, we online or I'm trying to remember all the things.
We connected online. So we first connected when the Better Mom first started.
Oh, that's
We were
right.
both contributing writers. And I had the audacity to I was so green. I had no idea what I was doing. And I found out that you were a novel writer. And I was like, can you just look at the first few chapters of my book? Like, no idea what I was asking. And you were so kind. And you gave me some great advice. And then we connected. And yeah, so that's how it was first. We were both writing for that Better Mom website.
I love it, and it's always fun because I feel like I feel like I've known you forever, and then it's one of those things like, "Oh, Jennifer, Jennifer, Jennifer," and then like,
Yes.
"Wait, where did we first connect?" I don't even remember. Yeah, that's so cool. And I think that's what I love about Christian fiction too, is that it's such a
Mm,
supportive community, supporting and avid readers of Christian
100%.
fiction. Like we are all supporting each other's books and cheering each other on, and we get excited
Mhm.
about each other's books. I cannot wait. I already pre-ordered the audiobook, so I could finish going through this and get the whole
Oh,
story and
thank
get the
you.
weaving and get the romance and everything. But what I love is that here we are connecting all these years later, and to see like what God has done with
Mm,
you, and see like the stories come to life, and that these dreams, these seeds of dreams that were in your heart. I mean, sometimes it's like
mm,
in the busyness of life, we kind of forget to celebrate, right? To celebrate,
yes.
like, this is another book and this is amazing. And it's set in Ireland, and that's like the place of your heart. And so, first of all, congratulations. And second of all, what surprised
Thank you.
you when you were writing this novel? Because I think so many times we have, this is book five, we have like ideas of, oh,
Mm.
it's going to get easier, or everything's just going to go exactly like I plotted it. So with this book, what surprised you about it?
I think, well, one, yes, it doesn't. I feel like each book gets harder. It's kind of like when you have your second baby, you think, oh, I know what to expect, but then it's actually worse because you know what to expect.
Yeah.
And it's like I know what I'm in for. And I am a plantser, so I don't fully plot out my stories. I've tried, it just doesn't work. And so I have a
Mm,
general skeleton. I know all the major plot points, but all the little tiny connecting bits, I never know until I'm in the story. And each of my books has a very specific spiritual theme, but I never know what that
mm,
is until I'm probably halfway through the book. And I wasn't sure what this theme was going to be. Saoirse means freedom, and because
mm.
of her past, I knew it was going to involve freedom in some way. But I was really surprised when I got partway in and I realized, oh my gosh, this is a Gideon book, because the two main characters, their lives really follow, in many ways mirror the faith journey that Gideon had to go on, as far as God providing and God bringing justice and God showing up when it didn't seem like, and his seemingly really dumb battle plans that he has.
Yeah.
And oddly enough, my dad was a pastor, and so growing up, I listened to his sermons all the time, and he had one. My very favorite one was his sermon on Gideon. And so once I realized that these storylines were very similar, very parallel, I started to bring in some of the truths from his sermon that I would listen to over all those years. And so that was a really special connection, to bring that spiritual foundation that was laid by my father in to help lay that foundation for my characters and hopefully for my readers. And so that was just a really fun surprise to kind of discover throughout the process, and one that I'm really grateful for, and that kind of makes this book, I mean, they're all special, they're like my children, but just
Yeah.
a really deeper connection to my heart, I think.
Oh, and like totally, I just have tears in my tears in my eyes now, because sometimes as parents we're like, are they even paying attention? And not only were
Yes.
you paying
Oh
attention,
my
but the
goodness.
spiritual lessons are there, and reaching a wider audience. And this is what I love. Like, your dad was preaching to a congregation, right? Just I don't know how many people were there,
Hmm.
but like, he was
Tiny,
faithful.
like
Yeah.
50 people.
Yeah. Faithful in God's word. God's speaking to his heart. He's given a message. And yet all these
Mm.
years later, that message, okay, literally, I'm really gonna cry now, but all
I
those years
know.
later, the message is like going out and reaching readers in a way that he would never, never have imagined.
Indeed, indeed, and that's I think one of the most fun and humbling parts of this whole process, is to be given the opportunity to do something like that and to speak into people's lives. There's a sense of excitement that comes with that, but also a weight of responsibility that I need to steward the
Mhm,
message well too. And but it feels like a really special full circle moment for sure for me.
mhm. Oh, I love that so much. Can you just give us a hint of like something from the message that really resonated with you that is tied into this book?
So it's all about trusting God when what he's asking you to do makes no sense. Um,
Mm.
and my dad's original title for the sermon was God's Stupid Battle Plans.
I love
which
it.
seems irreverent, but it's really not. And so there are some things, like they really wrestle with, and there's a when in the sorry, whew, words are hard. Um, in the biblical account of Gideon's story, when the angel of the Lord first comes to him and tells him, and it's basically like, "Yo, mighty warrior, dude, you're gonna like go
Yeah.
fight," and he's like, "What?" And the angel says, "You are God's chosen one to, bring justice to the people, and the Lord is with you." And Gideon says something to the effect of, if God is with us, then why has all this happened? Why have we been beaten down? Why have we been overtaken? Why have we been attacked? Why am I threshing wheat in a wine press, which is basically point like, why am I wasting my time? If he's actually with us, why did all this
Mhm.
happen? And I know that's a message that resonates with me. I've asked those questions myself. And I know that resonates with a lot of people, whether they're followers of Jesus or not. They've kind of wrestled with that question of, if God is good, if God is here, why are these bad things happening? And so that's really the thread that kind of
Oh,
weaves
wow.
its way through, no pun intended. But that's really what both the characters and the village are really having to reconcile with.
I love that. I love that so much. And I think also, I mean, through fiction, you're able to do that, but you're also a teacher. And I
Hmm.
mean, kind of bringing this full circle when your dad was, sharing his sermon about God's stupid battle plans, and you were there taking it in. I think sometimes when we work with young people, I homeschool, I also teach at co-op, which I only do it 2 days a week for an hour, and I'm exhausted. So I don't even know how you teach all day and then write books. Let me just put that out there.
I don't
But you
either.
never know. Yeah, you never know whatever you might say that might just be something that comes out of your mouth that's not even part of the lesson plan or whatever, or just people watching
Mm,
you live out your life and caring for them. You don't know the ripple effect of that. So I'm just going to say that too. So
mm.
thank you for being a teacher and serving in that way, because it's so hard. Like, again, I have
It
awesome
is.
students that, and I'm exhausted and I cannot keep up with their homework, grading it, and all those things. Yeah.
Yeah. All I can say is, but for the grace of God.
Yes.
Honestly, that's the only reason I'm still in the classroom, is because He's called me to be there, and He has to sustain me through it, because otherwise there'd be no way. It's an
Yeah.
impossible
Yeah.
job.
Oh, so good. Okay, so the title of this again is Heart of the Glen. And for those who may not be familiar, describe a glen. I mean, we have like a vague picture, but like what is really a glen?
So Glen is basically a valley.
Mhm.
And so this story is set in what is called the Poisoned Glen, not because it's dangerous or poison, but the people who anglicized the Irish thought it sounded like the Irish word sounded like poison.
Oh,
So, but it's surrounded, but yeah, it's great. English people, speaking people have done amazing things with the Irish language.
I love
But
it.
yeah, so it's surrounded by a mountain range called the Seven Sisters. And so they literally are, this village really is set in the heart of this poison glen. So it's just rugged, rough terrain all around them, and they're kind of nestled down in this valley. And this little village really is kind of the heart of that area. And it's based on a real village that I stumbled across in random research about the area, and kind of answered that question. I wonder what happened. And so, yeah, it's set in this lush green. So you've got like the green patchwork fields, and then it kind of gives way into these rugged slate mountains all around on three sides, and then it empties out eventually into the Atlantic Ocean.
So cool. Oh, I want to go
It's
someday. Well,
beautiful.
we can in the pages of a book. Um,
That's right.
journey there, journey there with Jen. She'll take you on this
That's right.
adventure, and the romance. I cannot wait. Okay, but I know people are saying, okay, I haven't read her books before. Tell us a little bit about some of your other books, because I know they're all standalone. So as soon as they read this, there's
Yes.
others they can go back and read. So tell us a little bit about those.
That's right. So all of them are set in Ireland. The time period ranges from 1905 all the way up to 1935. But the beautiful thing about rural Ireland is they are probably 10 years, especially back in that time, 10 years behind modern day. So if you think of 1935, you're thinking like, okay, we're almost on the brink of World War II. It's very modern. There's electricity, there's cars. We're out in rural Ireland. They didn't have those things. Like I think the first house in County Donegal got a phone in 1960. So they're so reading a book set in 1935 really reads like it's giving like 1915 kind of vibes. So it's still very historical. My first book, A Dance in Donegal, is set in the same general area as this one, just a few miles to the west, right on the coast. And it follows Irish American Maura Doherty. She moves from Boston to her mother's home village to teach. It was her mother's dying wish that she do that. But when she gets there, she realizes there's all these rumors swirling about her mother and why she left, and it ends up putting her life and her livelihood in danger. So, with the help of a ruddy Irish Thatcher, who happens to be very handsome, she has to get to the bottom end of the rumors and try and clear her name and save her life. So that's book one. Book two is The Lady of Galway Manor, and this one is set down in County Galway in 1921, I believe. And it follows the legend of the Clotter Ring, which is the heart with the crown on it and the hands holding it. And the ancestors of the man who created that ring still run a jewelry store in Galway City today. And
Wow.
so the hero is one of those family. And it's kind of an upstairs, downstairs Downton Abbey vibe. You've got the Irish jeweler, and then the British landlord's daughter finagles an apprenticeship with him. So we've got the British and English, or British and Irish thing, tension as the
Yeah.
war for independence is ramping up. We've got forced proximity. We have enemies to lovers, all of that good stuff. And that explores the themes of love, loyalty, and friendship. And then we have The Maid of Ballymacool, which is set back in Donegal. There's some Easter eggs in that one from the first book. And this is kind of a Cinderella retelling vibe. We've got an orphaned scullery maid in a boarding school, and she finds something out in the woods that ends up connecting her to her past. And it's all about found family and finding your identity in Christ, and kind of trusting God when everything seems hopeless. And then finally, we have The Irish Matchmaker, which is my most recent release, and that is set in the little town of Lisdoonvarna in County Clare. And it takes place during the actual matchmaking festival that still happens today through the
Wait,
entire
wait,
month of
wait, wait,
September.
wait, wait. Wait,
Yes.
wait.
Yes.
I have a single son. I might be taking him to this
Send him.
festival. He's part
So
Irish. He's probably
if
like,
you
I think he's like 5%
do
Irish too.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, do it. There's still a matchmaker there. His name's Willie Daly. He's third generation. He has a book that contains the records of every match ever made by him, his father, and his grandfather. And that one follows the story of like what would happen if the local matchmaker could make a match for everybody but herself. And so that one has like single dad romance, small town, sort of pseudo love triangle, but it all kind of takes place during this matchmaking festival. So all sorts of fun shenanigans ensue.
Okay,
So
when did you find out about this matchmaking festival? Because that's just fascinating.
So when we lived in Galway, one of the things we did is we would bring tour groups over from America, and we would take them around. And our goal was to kind of get beyond Blarney and help people see like the real Ireland. And so we would
Mhm.
take them around. And as you drive from Galway down through County Clare to the Cliffs of Moher, you pass through Lisdoonvarna. And they have these huge signs about the matchmaking festival, the world's largest matchmaking festival. And it started in the late 1850s when this doctor discovered mineral springs around the area, and they could be kind of medicinal. So he set up these spas basically. And so the wealthy started coming. And that's how it really originated, was all of these landed
Mm.
gentry who never really had access to anyone else of their station to make matches, started making matches. But then it also takes place right after the harvest. So then farmers are coming to town who finally have time and money to worry about a woman.
Mm.
And so it kind of just became this thing that's been going on for over 100 years. It's really fun.
Oh, so cool. So many cool things. I think, I mean, I think if you would pull like most people, Ireland would probably be one of the top 5 places that they want to visit. So it's so cool that you're able to
100%.
be
Yeah.
there and experience it and live there and see the real Ireland, which is just fascinating. Okay, so what one piece of research with this book, with the Heart of Glen, did you like go, oh, this is amazing? So, because I always love those little aha moments.
Ooh. Ooh, that's a good one. Probably when I discovered the village that I ended up setting the
Okay.
story in.
Yeah.
And I can't tell a whole bunch about what I discovered without spoiling parts of the book.
Okay. Okay.
But it was really fascinating because it was this village that was there, and then it's like a ghost town now, and nobody knows why. No one knows why everybody left, but like, so I kind of explore like my thoughts of what could have happened. Um,
Okay.
so that was really fun. And it was kind of one of those, my gosh, I lived in that area. We drove through that area almost every day, and I had no idea that this little ghost town existed. And so I'm kicking myself that I never got to go like walk through the streets of Glentornan and, let my imagination run wild. But that was probably the most fun little tidbit of like, oh yes,
I love
now I
it.
have my like anchor.
I love it. Oh, so good. Okay, now, yes, we just need to do a little tour group and go over there with you and do all those things.
Yes. Yes, let's do
let's
it.
just let's just put that out there. If anyone wants to support our tour group, that we're gonna put it out there.
Yes, and
Okay.
we'll go to all the places in the books.
I know. Wouldn't that be amazing?
Love it.
Oh, that'd be so cool.
Oh
All
my
right.
goodness, that's one of
So
my dreams I would love to be able to make happen.
I know. It would be so fun. It would be so fun. All right. Last question I always love, and I should
Yeah.
have warned you ahead of time, but I always ask, what is one Christian fiction novel that you really loved? It could be an all-time favorite, something that you've read recently, and people are always
Oh
like, oh my
gosh.
goodness, there's so many to think about. So what's one that you really enjoyed?
Yes. Well, I'll go with the one that I just finished. I just finished it last night, and it was Meddling with Mistletoe by Liz Johnson.
Oh,
She is one of my most favorite authors of all time. She writes the most delicious and electric romantic tension without being skeezy.
mhm.
Um, and this story was just perfection. It was funny. It was another Grumpy Sunshine. Apparently, I have a thing for grumpy heroes. He's like super grumpy, and I'm here for it. Yeah, and it was just the romance was great. It was funny. It's set at Christmas time. Like, it's perfection.
Okay, so say the title again because there's gonna be a lot of people like, wait, say it again because I want to go get that.
Meddling with Mistletoe.
Meddling with Mistletoe. Oh,
Yeah.
perfect. And we love Liz.
Meddling with Mistletoe by Liz Johnson.
I love it. Okay.
We
And
do.
this one again is The Heart of Glen, Jennifer Deibel. And Jennifer, where do you go? Where can we go to find more information about you and all of your books?
So probably the best one-stop shop to find all the things is my website, and it's just jenniferdeibel.com. And there's links to all my social media. There's a link to sign up for my newsletter. There's information about all my books, old blog posts, all of that is right there. And on social media, I'm most active on Instagram, but I also have a private readers group on Facebook where I share tidbits that I don't share with anybody else. So that's super fun.
Mm. All right. Well, thank you so much for being here, and we'll have all the information in the show notes.
Perfect. Thank you so much for having me. It was absolutely lovely.